So we are kind of moving into the end of year giving season, fundraising season. A lot of nonprofits budgets for the end of this year, next year, kind of living in the next 6 weeks or so. And so I know everyone's really eager to hear your advice related to fundraising. So what are some fundraising trends you've seen this year that relate to measuring and communicating impact that we haven't already touched on?
That's a great question. And before I answer that, just would love for anyone that has questions that have come up as we've been chatting, feel free to put those in the chat. I'm happy to answer those as we go along. I personally don't have to wait until the end for questions. I know we can all learn from each other and everyone can, get more out of this by you sharing what's worked for you, what hasn't worked. So please feel free to put anything in the chat as we are going along here, even before our Q&A at the end. But back to Sherry's question, just about fundraising trends that we have seen over the course of this year. 2024, I'm sure for some people the year has flown by, and for others it's probably felt like a very long year for many reasons. And I would say, one of the biggest things that we have seen, and I'm sure whether it's on LinkedIn or newsletters or wherever, I think everyone has started to see impact storytelling or data-driven storytelling. Those phrases have kind of been plastered all over the place. And I think they're well intended. I personally think they're overused. So, when we're talking about either one of those things related to nonprofit storytelling, it is really important. And so what we have seen work really well, and definitely a trend that has emerged and continues to be adopted, is combining quantitative or the numeric data and qualitative or the more anecdotal data, combining the two to where you do have, data being a part of your communication efforts, whether that's a true story narrative or not. We know that donors want to see the data, they want to see the numbers at large to determine, okay, what's the scale, what's the reach of your programs, but they also want to feel connected to your mission. And so using those, qualitative pieces or individual stories of transformation, combining the two really helps donors to, feel like they're a part of something that's bigger than themselves, that they're really contributing to, but also it helps them feel connected to the people or the families, the community that you're actually serving. So I would say that that has been a big one that a lot of organizations are starting to adopt, and it works quite well. Another one would be that donors are really wanting to, they want transparency, and not just from an impact metric standpoint, but I was reading an article just this morning about nonprofits adopting AI. And so it actually looks like nonprofits have adopted AI more than for-profits, which is interesting to me. I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but I think just leveraging those new tools is fantastic. But donors, constituents, and others do question how their data is being used, and there are concerns around that. So donor transparency is another one that has emerged pretty aggressively in 2024. Donors, wanting to see that transparency and make sure that their data is being used appropriately. As I just alluded to, AI obviously has gone crazy this year. And so that's great. I think it can save a lot of time for nonprofits who are already, strapped for personnel or time or whatever the resources might be. I would just advocate that you definitely, your whatever platform you're using, whether it's for your marketing, communications, development, you're giving it clear guidelines, and then you're having your team members go back and edit very heavily if you are using AI. So those are some of the biggest trends that I would say that we've seen. Lastly, digital tools and digital dashboards that I'm sure, Sherry, you could speak more to than I could. But whether you're trying to visualize donor data or constituent data, the impact metrics, internal KPIs. There are just so many good tech tools that help you see data in real time and help you keep your data more clean and updated. And so that's another one that I would say has really taken off this year, and that is really helpful for nonprofits in general.